Hey there farmers, welcome back to Massey Manor. I am Jim Bob, and I'm a little confused today because I watched the end of episode 9 to see where I'd got up to before I started recording this, and this field was fully grown and ready to harvest, and now it's fully harvested, and I'm not entirely sure what's happened, but I seem to have lost an hour's worth of footage somewhere. Now, about a week ago, I did delete a load of old video files to free up some space on my hard drive, and I think I may have accidentally deleted the footage I was going to use for episode 10, which is this episode. So, yeah, it looks as though we've lost the footage of this field being harvested, which is a bit of a shame. Not entirely sure how that happened, but it has. So unfortunately, yeah, we've kind of skipped forward a little bit without any screen time. Completely unintended. I had no idea how I managed to make that mistake, but I'm guessing that's what's happened, is that I've accidentally deleted the file when I was clearing out older videos that have since been uploaded. So I can only apologise for that, guys. But onwards we go anyway. So let's have a look at how things currently stand. So we have one field left to harvest now, which is field 8, and that field has, I believe, soybeans. Yes, soybeans. So we've got one field left to harvest. Let's take a look at the pricing. As you can see, we are up to 58,500 tons, or 58,500 litres of soybeans in our storage. We've got one field left to go, so I'm guessing that'll push us up to around about, because it's not the huge, our biggest of fields, it'll probably push us up to about 70, maybe 75,000. And the price is still going up, so let's make a start on that. We do need to refill our harvester with fuel. Because the last time I did it, I refueled it for all of about 10 seconds before I started pulling away again. So let's get this refueled. Let's get the header in place. Need to zoom the camera out a little bit. There we go. And we'll bring the trailer over to where we need it as well. Trying not to destroy the water pump there. Alright, there we go. That's close enough. So let's get our harvester up and running. So today I launched the American Outback series. I've got a really good response to the first couple of videos, so thank you to everyone who was taking the time to watch the launch of that series. I do appreciate it. I hope you stick with me for the for the run all the way through. We are now, let's see, it's now 2:30 in the morning on Wednesday morning, so we are now 13 days away from Big Bud. Getting closer and closer. Really cannot wait for that DLC to drop. And as we start to get towards that point as well, once the DLC is out and I have done my little test of it and put up my review video, then I will switch attentions away from doing double episodes of American Outback back to single, and start recording footage of Rise of the Tomb Raider, which will be joining the channel in the middle of May. I have had a request of a couple of little mini games as well, so I'll be looking. I think I already have one of them, although I haven't played it, so I'll be looking at seeing if I have actually got that in my game library, and if I have, that'll be coming to the channel as a little side game. And I'll be looking at also bringing a couple of other little miniature games that I have as well, other small network games that we've been given off the PlayStation Network, or ones that I've purchased myself. So lots of new content will be coming to the channel throughout the month of May. Not just the farming sim, we'll obviously be continuing with No Man's Sky and Prison Architect as well. And as I say, we've got Tomb Raider coming up. That's definitely confirmed, and some of the little mini games that I am looking to maybe feature on a couple of episodes here and there throughout the month as well. So stay tuned to the channel. Definitely something for everyone, in the month of May. And if you guys do have any requests, any game footage that you would like to see, then do let me know. If it's a long, involved game, then we could look at perhaps doing a series. If it's a smaller game, we could look at giving it a bit of a little run. Other games we could perhaps just do like a little spotlight on, just showcase a little bit of footage and give you a taster of what the game is like. So if you do have any requests, you can let me know either on in the comments on any of my videos, or you can message me and let me know either through YouTube or on Facebook at my Facebook page, Jim Bob Plays Games. Or again, you could just comment on any of my my posts on my Facebook page with requests as well. I will pop a thread up there for people to actually make requests. I'm trying to think what we were going to spend some of this money on. It's been a while since I've spent some time here on Cobra Park. I know we were planning on using the money for something. I know we were looking at getting sheep up and running. Sure, there was something else I wanted to purchase. I know I was also looking at pricing of a 77 series. So we'll see how much money we get from finishing this field and then selling our crop. And if we can afford it, we might get the 77. If we can't, then we may look at investing in sheep instead. We'll see how things go. I still get the feeling I'm missing something else, that there was something else I wanted to purchase, but like I said, it's escaping me right now. Oh, I know we do need a small seeder for corn and sunflowers as well. So we will look into getting just a small 3-meter one of those, and then we can run our little mini Massey, our little 33 series just over there. And that'll certainly have enough power to run one of those small seeders. The old stream got an update today as well. So the last patch that was released introduced the new fields and expanded the size of the map, and also unfortunately glitched one of the nuggets as well, which made it impossible for anyone to actually collect all 100 when starting a new file. That has now been fixed with today's patch, according to the patch notes. I have installed the patch, but I haven't had the chance to look at it just yet. I'll be doing that a little bit later before I go to bed. And apparently there's been some terrain changes and some alterations to placements of certain items and objects as well. So my guess is, and again I haven't looked at the update yet, I've installed it, just not run it yet, but I'm guessing that the grass field, I think it was G2, I think that was the one, just below our farm, that did get a substantial sort of bulge in the side of the field with the update. I'm guessing that that may well have been addressed to smooth that out a little bit, given what they stated in the description. That would be my interpretation. Again, I might be completely wrong on that. I'll find out later, and then I can obviously let you guys know in a future video, be it on this series or a different one. I'm kind of running out of things to say already, which is never a good sign. It's unfortunately a little drawback of being tired, and nothing exciting tends to happen in my life either. So it's not like I have these wild stories I can relate to you on a day-by-day basis. You know, nothing all that exciting tends to happen very often to me. So everything kind of just stays as is for a lot of the time. If you're a football fan here in the UK, good to see that Newcastle got themselves promoted. They will be back in top flight football next season. Be interesting to see if they can actually stay up for more than one season. They're going to need to really invest heavily in their squad to stay in the Premiership next year, I think. And they'll definitely need to invest in some decent shape or form to keep their manager. I think if they don't provide him with enough of a transfer kitty, then he will sort of up sticks and leave at the end of the season, or even part way through the season. He's a good manager, Rafa. He's a former manager of my football team, Liverpool. Took us to Champions League final in 2005, which we won, and then again in the final in 2007, which unfortunately we lost. Never quite managed to do it in the league for us, but then having said that, no manager has really. We've never really come all that close. We've had a couple of little flirts with winning the title in the last 20-something years, but just hasn't clicked for whatever reason. We actually looked at one point this year like we might have been with a good chance, and then everything kind of fell apart over New Year. We lost a series of games back to back, and we've struggled against the weaker teams, at least on paper, the weaker teams in our division this year. We've been amazing against the top half of the table, but the bottom half of the table is where we've struggled. We haven't got the results. We lost again at the weekend to Crystal Palace, which wasn't great, especially considering it's one of our former strikers that scored both of their goals. But for whatever reason, it just hasn't happened for us at Liverpool for quite some time in the league. We've often fallen victim to a bad transfer policy, bought in the wrong players and overpaid for those players as well, and then subsequently lost a fair bit of money when we've sold them on. One of the biggest examples of that would be when the club, against the manager's wishes, decided to sign Roy Keane for 19 million, and 6 months later he was gone for only 12 million. We lost 7 million in 6 months on a player. It was ridiculous. I mean, he was a good player, but he just didn't fit with the style of football that we were playing, and I can't understand why he was purchased. But, our club has been littered with a long history of buying the wrong players, unfortunately, and usually overpaying for them as well. We bought Andy Carroll after a promising season, and we paid £35 million for a young, unproven striker, which was an obscene amount of money. It was kind of tempered by the fact that we just received a huge £50 million for Fernando Torres, who was definitely past his prime by that point. He'd never looked the same since he had that long layoff with injury, and subsequently really seriously underperformed for Chelsea when he played for them, and still hasn't got back to his best while he's now back at Atletico Madrid. He's still not back to anywhere near the form that he showed when he first signed for us. But once again, it was a panic buy. It was an overpayment of a seriously large amount of money that just wasn't justified or warranted in any way, shape, or form. It was almost like a panic buy at the end of the transfer window. And the players that we have bought, who have gone on to become very good players, have shown an alarming lack of loyalty to the club in the past. We signed Javier Mascherano, and we paid 18 million for him, and during his tenure at the club he became a regular and then captain for the Argentinian national side. His game improved massively, and then he got a rumour that Barcelona might be interested. He spat his dummy out and he refused to play for the club, and forced through a transfer of 18 million, half a million less than we paid for him when we signed him. We've had Michael Owen refuse to sign contract extensions going way back, running his contract down to the final year, and then going to Real Madrid for just 8 million, when at the time we could have got 30 plus million for him, had he been under contract for more than 12 months. Steve McManaman walked away from the club to go to Real Madrid on a free contract. Again, after the club had made him a star. Luis Suarez, came to us with a glowing and ever increasing reputation in European football. Was worshipped and adored by the fans of the club. Became an instant hero, instant hero of the COP. Got a sniff that Barcelona might be interested, and I swear he deliberately bit after the club backed him as well, when he bit Ivanovic of Chelsea, and then got involved with the racism row with Patrice Evra at Manchester United, that I think ultimately cost Kenny Dalglish's job, because he publicly backed the player who was then found guilty of being racist. I think the second he found out that Barca were gonna be putting in a bid for him, I think he deliberately bit Chiellini at the World Cup, just to try and cause embarrassment and make his position at Liverpool untenable, to try and force through the transfer. And we got top money for him. We got 75 million for him. We definitely got our money's worth. But we lost a truly world-class player. The second he found out that Barcelona were interested, that was it. He was on his merry way. It's unfortunate that there isn't a larger amount of loyalty between players and clubs. You just don't see it much anymore, especially with foreign players that tend to come over. They don't have a history with the club, they don't have an affinity with the club. It's different when you look at some of the best examples of loyal players. You look at Liverpool and you look at Steven Gerrard, Jamie Carragher, two shining beacons of loyalty. And then you look at Chelsea, and you had Frank Lampard and John Terry. And you look at Arsenal, and they haven't had the same degree of loyalty from their players over the last few years, but going back a bit longer, you certainly had a lot of loyalty with players there. Manchester United, you had a lot of very loyal players there for who played a long time for the club. You just don't see it that much in football anymore. It's more about how much money a player can make these days, which is unfortunate, I think, given how much money footballers make now. It's not like it was even 10 years ago. I mean, you could go back 20, 30, 40 years and the wages involved in football now are astronomical compared to what they were even 10 years ago. There's so much money, especially in the English game. There is so much money involved in football now. And even in America, in MLS, Major League Soccer, it's now becoming quite a high-paying league as well. You look at some of the top players. I mean, most of the players who are getting paid the top wages are foreign imports. Kaká, the Brazilian, is the highest paid player of this last season in MLS, getting 5.6 million for his play for the season. I think the highest American is Michael Bradley, and I think he's on about 5 million, maybe even less than that. But the majority of the top 10, if you look at the top 10 list of players who earn the highest per season at the moment in MLS, and almost every single one of them is a foreign import, and usually towards the end of their career as well. In the latter years. Unfortunately, for MLS, it still doesn't have a reputation as a top league. So the only way they get the really top names from world football to go there is, unfortunately, with a big check, and it's usually towards the end of a player's career as well. They want to be winning, they want to be playing in the top leagues when they're at their prime, where they can earn the most money and earn the most notoriety and really boost and build their reputation. I mean, you look at the very best players in the world, and a lot of them play for clubs like Real Madrid and Barcelona, and there's no way you'll ever see Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo sign for an MLS side. Just won't happen. Those two will stay at those clubs until they retire, I think. I don't think they'll even sign for a different club, even if it is in one of the top leagues. By contrast, there are also players who sometimes go to MLS because they want to stroke their ego a little bit, and they want to stand out in as a shining beacon in a sea of players that are as a whole, and I don't mean this in an unkind way, but less talented because they are in a less developed league. A league that hasn't been running for as long and isn't as established in world football. And I think, given the injury to Ibrahimovic that occurred last week in the Europa League tie, he's out for the rest of this season. His Manchester United career could be over. He signed a one-year contract last year when he signed for United, with the option of an extra season, and he may now just call time in his Man United career and go for a big payday at MLS. He won't sign for another English club. If he doesn't stay for one more year at Manchester United, that's it for him with English football. He'll be moving on. and MLS will give him a payday, and he'll still be regarded as a top player in that division. I mean, he's kind of an enigma. You know, you know, he's won awards and campaign, rewards at the end of every single season that he's played football. But he's always been at a team that has dominated. He's never done it at a team that's had to fight from underneath. And so he's never really been tested. I mean, he spent the last few years before he was before he came to England, at Paris Saint-Germain. And while the French league has got a couple of really strong teams, the rest of the league is pretty average. And at Paris Saint-Germain, they basically just opened up a huge checkbook and just bought as many world-class players as they possibly could, and easily outspent and outstripped every other team in the league, with the exception possibly of Monaco. But Monaco had some real financial issues of their own, so they had to get rid of a lot of their players that they'd spent a lot of money on, or at least ship them out on loan. So the stellar squad that they assembled got broken up pretty quickly. They are fighting back a bit now. But PSG just walked the title every year in France, and yet, when it came to European football, when it came to the really big games, they just couldn't get it done. And it's because they weren't up against truly exceptional teams, or teams with truly exceptional players on a regular basis. They were up against teams with a lot of average teams, with a couple of standout players and a lot of average players. And so while they were walking their domestic title, they were never really strong contenders for a European competition, because you just knew that they would come up against one of the really big teams in Europe and they would get beaten. So as good as Ibrahimovic is and has been, I think a lot of his achievements have kind of been inflated and exaggerated a little bit, simply because of the level that he's been playing at. It's easy when you're an exceptional talent. It's easy to be considered world class and score a huge number of goals when you're up against players that are of a considerably lower quality on average to other domestic leagues out there. If he was playing in Germany, he wouldn't have been scoring anywhere near as many goals that he was if he'd been playing in Spain or Italy. I doubt he would have scored anywhere near the number of goals he was scoring in France. France used to have a really strong football league, and a lot of French players, a lot of the really top French players don't tend to play outside of one or two clubs in France now, or they just don't play in France at all. They play in the other top leagues in Europe, so in Spain, in Italy, in Germany, and in England. Again, it's all come down to money. Players will go where the money is. And the amount of money that gets thrown around on world transfers these days is obscene as well. I remember when 20 million was a lot, an awful lot for a striker. And it just, that's peanuts now. Absolute peanuts. Every time there's a transfer window, you're looking at players being talked of going for 50, 60, 70, 80 million pounds. 20 million is a drop in the bucket. 20 million by today's standards will get you a decent striker, but certainly not get you a world-class striker. But it doesn't always mean that the teams that spend the most money will be the ones with the best team. You only have to look at last season and see what Leicester managed to achieve to see that a squad that barely avoided relegation in their previous season then went on to absolutely storm the Premiership and win the title. And I don't think we'll ever see anything like that again. I really don't. It was just, they had such an amazing run of form and such amazing spirit and this will to succeed. I just can't see any other team ever duplicating that. Not with the way things are in football as things stand. I just can't see that kind of achievement happening again in this country. Maybe in the future. Maybe things will change, but I think that was just one of those freak occurrences that happens once every generation or two, and you know, it's happened now, and we won't see anything like that happen for a long time again. I mean, there was a time when Liverpool were the most dominant team in world football. We were there fighting for the title every season. You know, we were winning title after title. We won European Cups. You know, we're the most successful English club in the history of European football. And while we've had a lot of cup success on and off over the last, you know, since 1991, 1992, we haven't really had league success. You know, we've flirted with the title on a couple of occasions, but generally, you know, we've kind of been a big disappointment. And every year we think this could be our year, and every 2 or 3 seasons we get a real, genuine glimpse of a Liverpool team that could actually make a run for the title, and then something just goes horribly wrong, and it all falls apart, and you know, we're a shadow of the team that we used to be. It's a shame, but things change in football. That's the way it goes. I mean, Manchester United were more recently the dominant force in in English football, and they are, you know, potentially going to go yet another season without being in the Champions League, let alone fighting for the title itself. Things do change. You know, the power base will shift. A team that was once dominant will suddenly struggle, and this is true of any sport. I mean, you look at basketball, and you look how dominant Miami Heat were, you know, a few years back, and then LeBron left, went back to Cleveland, broke up the trinity of him, D Wade, and Bosch, and other teams made some useful purchases, and Miami are just a shadow of the team that they were. I mean, they're still competitive, but they are not a team that looks like they're going to win another ring anytime soon. The Lakers, one of the most dominant teams, you know, not too long ago, and now struggling every single season. I'm sure you could find the same thing in other sports as well. I mean, I don't really tend to follow that many other sports, so I honestly couldn't say. But you know, I can give you an example in Formula One. McLaren used to be a dominant team, and then they switched their engine supplier from Mercedes. They signed a deal with Honda, who are returning to the sport after a long absence, and they've looked a shadow of the team that they used to be. You know, the engine hasn't been good enough. There have been problems with car design. The whole package just has been terribly unreliable. They've been without a title sponsor for, you know, a couple of years now. And while they've been able to offset, you know, some of that by you know, with the contract that they have with Honda, it's only a matter of time. If things don't change, I think it's only a matter of time before that 10-year partnership comes to a very sudden and abrupt end before those 10 years are up. Because McLaren can't continue the way they are. And you look at Williams as well. Williams were a team that dominated in the 90s and then kind of just fell off a bit and have never really ever looked like getting back up there again ever since. Ferrari absolutely dominated when Michael Schumacher was driving for them. And then it kind of fell away a little bit, and they've had some really iffy seasons. Last year, they went into the season having won 3 races the previous year. They thought last year they would actually have a good chance, and they really, really struggled last year. This year, with the rule changes, they finally have a car that looks as though it's going to be able to compete for the title. Lead driver Sebastian Vettel has actually won 2 of the first 3 races and finished second in the other race. So Ferrari lead the Drivers' Championship, and I think they lead the Constructors as well, or will be close to leading the Constructors if they're, they'll be close in second if they're not in the lead of that. But they're definitely they're there for the fight, and it's good actually, because we've had 3 years of utter dominance from Mercedes, where it's just been their 2 drivers battling it out for the title. Now we actually have a proper battle. Again, at the moment it's just 2 drivers. It's between Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel, but it's with 2 teams as well, Ferrari and McLaren. That's right, Ferrari and Mercedes. And that's good. That's what we want to see. We want to see proper competition between teams as well as drivers. We don't want to just see one team that walks it every single year. So this year is actually shaping up to be a very exciting season for the first time in a couple of years. Okay, so our crop price has stabilised now, 11.63. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to speed time up. We're going to go and sell this, and we'll keep an eye on the price of soybeans at the other location at Winstay Stores as well, because as that continues to come up, this one is obviously going to drop at the biogas plant now that we're going to start tipping there. It's going to start going down based on how much we're tipping. We can shortcut through this field as well now that we've harvested it. So instead of going all the way around the outside, we can literally just drive through the field and we're there, which is really handy. Oops. So let's see. We've got 40,000 here. How much do we have in the rest of our storage? We have another 39. So that's not bad. That's 80 tons. Let's see how much money we can get from 80 tons. I reckon we're looking at around about 100,000. In total. Maybe we're going to fall a bit short. We only got 46,000 for that one, so maybe we're looking at around 90. That's a little disappointing actually. I was hoping we were going to get more for our soybeans than this. So we're definitely not going to be able to afford to get a 77. That's just not going to happen. Avoid the traffic there. I cut the corner and it sent me up into an embankment there. So given that we can't afford a 77, we could look at maybe investing in some sheep. We'll see how much they're going to cost. We could maybe look at getting 50 sheep. I do need to get that seeder. Yeah, it's just soybeans that we have, that's it. Yeah, Winstay is going up, but it's not going up quickly enough. So it looks like we're going to be selling back at the biogas again. Let's see. Oh, another new mob that went live today as well. I added it to the list. is this, the Galera 55 LTS. Holds 55 tons. It's articulated, so it needs a dolly or a truck to pull it. It's quite nice looking. I wonder if we can actually... it's just blue. We can't change the colour, but we can change the wheel setup from standard to wide. It's not a bad little trailer, that. 55,000 litres. How much does it cost? 69.5. That's a pretty good price, actually. It's a bigger capacity than this one, and it's cheaper. And it's not far behind this, and significantly cheaper than this. That's not a bad little trailer, actually. Alright, let's take our remaining soybeans over to the biogas, sell these, and then we'll buy the seeder, and then that will probably be it for the episode. Sneaking out ahead of the traffic. A little bit reckless there. And the price is starting to rebound a little bit. Alright, so let's sell. And what do we end up with in total? 136 overall. Okay, so let's slow time down again. We need a seeder. I don't really want to buy that one, it's just too expensive at this stage. 54,000, that's way too pricey for, you know, how little it's going to get used. So we're looking probably either this one here, the Optima V from Converland, or probably more likely this one here, the Amazona ED3000C. Yeah, we'll go with this one. So let's buy that. Only needs 100 horsepower to run it, so our mini Massey can definitely handle that. So we'll take this back to the farm. We'll swap tractors. We'll go down, pick up our seeder, and then we'll call it an episode. Looks like we might have missed just a thin patch somewhere around that tree. Keep seeing a little yellow glow when we get out of draw distance. I can't see it now because the hedge is in the way. So let's park our trailer up. There we go, trailer is away. I'm not really sure where to park this. I think we parked them here, didn't we, at the start? Should probably put a little pressure washer in somewhere around here. There we go. Lights off. Beacons off. Where are we on the field? Going the wrong way. Might possibly need to get a weight as well for the front of this tractor to counterbalance the seeder on the back of it. We'll see. Let's park up the header. And hopefully next time I try and get the header out, I won't make a complete pig's ear of it like I did the last time. There we go, header is away. Let's go get our seeder. This tractor just feels really slow for some reason. I don't know why. I've been spending a bit of time obviously on American Outback over the last few days, recording footage and playing about with the new farm. Also setting up a test farm on American Outback on a separate file as well, ready for my DLC when that drops in a couple of weeks. And you know, the tractors I've been using, you know, generally run at around 30 miles an hour, but only what 6 miles an hour faster than these ones run. But this just feels really slow for whatever reason, and I don't know why. It's curious. Well, time has gone off. We are out of time. So I'll continue driving down and wrap the episode up. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you're enjoying Massey Manor. We will carry on this farm for a little while longer before we even think of moving. So you know, fear not. You know, we're not about to drop this map for a different one. We are going to stay on Cobra for a little while longer yet. I mean, we've only done one harvest, you know, so we've got plenty of work to come yet before we look at potentially selling up and moving to a different map. But yeah, don't forget, you can now check out my American Outback playlist. It is live. The first 2 episodes are up. More episodes will be going up every 4 days. So make sure you check out that playlist. Obviously there's still Sandy Bay going on, and Fent Farm as well. Both of those series are both still going strong. Yeah, a little bit tipped. Let's get a quickly buy a weight as well. We don't need a massive one. That one will do. Just help counterbalance this a little bit. Yeah, that looks better now. I'm not leaning back so much. So yeah, don't forget to check out Fent Farm and Sandy Bay, as well as Massey, and obviously Outback, the brand new playlist. You know, all 4 of those farms will continue for a little while yet before we even think of moving one of them. So yeah, fear not. We're not about to just up sticks on any of them just yet. Don't forget as well, there is also No Man's Sky and Prison Architect you can check out. If you wanted to see something a little bit different, then there is also Absolute Absolute Drift Zen Edition. I will be adding a little bit more footage of that very, very soon. And of course, next month we'll be bringing you know, Tomb Raider to the channel, amongst other things as well. So keep your eyes peeled for the channel. Best way to do that is to subscribe if you haven't done so already. And a thumbs up on the video always helps if you've enjoyed watching. My name's Jim Bob. I will catch you back on the farm very soon.